So today we're talking improving data quality and conversion attribution, which essentially means, in this context, surviving ITP limitations, short cookie lifetimes, and some stuff on the bot traffic as well. My name is Dan. Those who follow our webinars might have seen me already. I'm joined here by Vlad, who's handling your questions in the QA. So, like I said, feel free to ask them. And as usual, you're going to get a follow-up after this. There will be a webinar recording on YouTube, and you're going to get written guides, some useful links to follow up the subject that we've discussed today. So yeah, watch out in your email. Session outline for today. So we're going to talk about custom domain. I'm going to explain what it does, what it doesn't do. I want to go through some fairly basic, but on the other hand, fairly widespread myth and misconceptions on what the custom domain, or rather custom subdomain, provides to you. We're going to talk about how we can bypass ad blockers, what needs to be done for that. There's a section on cookie lifetime and multiple approaches on how you can sort of bypass ITP restrictions in Safari iOS. How to detect bot and filter bot traffic. That's for the dessert. And then how to measure the real impact of your server-side setup. I'm going to show you a few things in your Stape accounts, which you can pretty much enjoy. And obviously, there will be a Q&A session at the end. I think for this specific webinar, it might be a little bit longer than the others. So yeah, prepare your questions. I'm going to be answering them. Right. So switching to the subject real quick, I'm going to go through some slides before we go to the live demo. So this is the triad, I called it, of pretty much things that influence your attribution, which is the whole matter of subject matter of this webinar. So you have cookies, which are limited by ITP, and I said other TP because in other browsers from Safari, it's not exactly intelligent tracking prevention. They have other names. The idea is your cookie lifetimes are limited, which obviously affects your attribution because by the time your customer converts, be it a purchase or a lead submission, whatever, they might not already, they might not have the cookie that would stitch them to any advertising campaign anymore. The second is signal quantity, so sheer amount of events you're sending to any advertising platform. Uh, of course, informs your attribution as well. And if some of those hits are blocked by ad blockers, obviously there's nothing you can do to kind of, uh, to get that information and to deliver it to your ads cabinet. Therefore, your attribution suffers as well. Lastly, there's the signal quality. So however many of those you send, they need to be proper, let's say. So you want to add the user data to them. You want to make sure that, events fire where they're supposed to, and they're just not some dummy stuff. And of course, there's user behavior, which is the last component of this, which we don't have direct control over. So I only listed it here to kind of show you that you should never expect 100% like precision in all of these matters. It's only all right that some of the people will not be tracked, even if we bypass all of the ad blockers, even if we do anything. Like some people will never reach your thank you page, for instance, and they will just leave after the payment gateway, which is one dummy example. Right. So quick reminder on ITP and what it is. I think the crowd should be familiar, but it all started in 2017, where there were limitations introduced to third-party cookies in Safari, where they were limited in time, and then a year after they were removed completely. We also have overlapping with this all of the GDPR, CCPA, and other other privacy acts across the United States and globally, which kind of influence your attribution as well and influence what you're allowed and not allowed to do, what you're allowed to report and not. And this is missing on this slide, but in this year, 2025, we all know that Google Chrome has announced that third-party cookies are actually here to stay. They've introduced some instruments to how you can limit them as a user, but we all know nobody does that. Like the default browser is what everybody uses en masse. So this is not included here. The comment on that is that even though third-party cookies are remaining in Chrome, that doesn't defeat the benefit of server-side tracking or anything, because actually it always was the game about Safari and those customers on their iPhones. Even though in Chrome with a first-party setup, you're still benefiting from it for sure. like even if third-party cookies are here to stay, which again, Google has changed their mind a couple of times, so we'll see where we'll end up. Ad blockers, right? This is about the signal quantity. So on average, roughly 37% of internet users are on some sort of an ad blocker. Of course, you may find different numbers. This depends on when the survey was done, in what regions and such. This is like a very global and very average number, but it is quite telling. It's a huge chunk of the audiences. They utilize ad blockers that intentionally or unintentionally, ultimately, they screw up with your tracking. So I feel like ad blocker is a thing that should be, blocking your banner advertisement, not block JS requests on your website. And I think most of the users on ad blockers, they use them specifically for that, to block out the banners, not to make your Google Analytics suffer or anything like that. The figure is, of course, very audience and industry dependent. I always like to give an example where we had a customer selling Raspberry Pis, the small computers, and when they switched to server-side tracking, we realized that roughly 70% of their audience was on ad blockers, because that's a tech-savvy crowd, and yeah, they just never wanted to be tracked. On average, though, across Stape user base, we see roughly 12%, again, on average, of requests recovered from ad blockers when everything is configured correctly, which is something we're going to talk about today as well. Signal quality, right? So don't forget the user data. We talked about cookies, but it's not only cookies that are responsible for your attribution. Any advertising platform will try to stitch together conversions based on the user data. So always send it when you can, when you are allowed by consent, your local regulations, the availability of the data, but it's in your best interest to send as much as possible at any point. I'm also saying here, try to enrich on top of that. You got to check some of our other webinars and guides into that. So there are ways where you can get some user data where otherwise you wouldn't, because you can reuse the user data of somebody who has identified themselves prior without the login. This is a whole different subject matter, so I just pointed it here that if you have cases where that can be applied, you definitely should. And last, and this will be on our practical part as well, is don't send bot traffic. Bot traffic waters down your overall pools of data, right? And it waters down the conversion rates and everything. This might not be a problem for everyone. This is not as global as it might sound. However, you would definitely benefit if you started filtering that out. And today I'm going to show you how to do that. So with that, I'm going to switch to live demo and get my hands dirty with some GTM work and such. Hope you will enjoy it. So my weapons of choice, as usual, I have a dummy WooCommerce store right here selling some flowers. I have my admin panel of that WordPress. I have my Stape account with a container created and some subdomains pointed to it. I have a handy manual from Stape in our help desk. I have my server container, I have my web container, sorry, and Cloudflare. So following our outline, we're going to start with a custom domain and just discuss a little bit what it does, what it doesn't, and I will show you some examples. Regarding the stuff that I have here, shop, admin, the containers, if anyone has a problem reaching this stage, again, check out our previous videos. We showed it a bunch of times how you can quickly onboard on WooCommerce, on Shopify, or anywhere. Just install our application and you will be where I am in like maybe 30 minutes. So not gonna be the case is I'm not gonna stop on that. Not gonna stop on implementation. I will assume that you have a Stape account. I will assume you have a server container, and yeah, I will go from there. So in my admin on WordPress, I have a Stape plugin installed. We see it here, GTM server side, and I will go to settings of it. As you may already know, we have a functionality here. The basic functionality of the plugin is to inject Google Tag Manager scripts on your website. So right now I have it with just the GTM ID. So just my web GTM ID, no custom domain, no Stape identifier, no custom loaders, no nothing. Let's take a look of what that means. So if we look into the network, we can filter by GTM. Let me refresh. And here's my loader injected successfully on the page. You can see it's downloaded from googletechmanager.com, which is a native way to do it. There's the GTM.js file and my ID. So if I were to go and enable an ad blocker real quick, let me just do that here. I'm using uBlock Origin Lite. This is available in the Chrome Web Store. So this is not something funky from the dark web. This is available to any user out there. Let's see what it does to my loader here. It did nothing. Interesting. Lovely. Internal redirect. Okay. Let me see. Maybe this is some cache. So essentially, our ad blocker is supposed to be blocking this if I don't have any exceptions. Give me a second. Let's do optimal. Let's do some filter lists. They're on. All right. Okay. And it's still cached. Okay, this is a point where I get embarrassed. And this is the second webinar where this is happening, where I have some hurdles. Please be gentle with me. Live demos are never fun. They always don't go according to the script. Turn on redirect. Yeah. Okay, let's see what it does. We have a data layer from GTM. We don't. GTM start and there's nothing happening. Yeah. Okay. All right. So in essence, even if for some reason, I'm not sure what happened right now, I wasn't completely blocked, GTM didn't quite load correctly because that's not, that's not a thing. That is evident from this. Pretty much in our data layer, we don't have anything but the initial GTM start. And we are supposed to have DOM ready event, we're supposed to have window loaded event and all of that goodness, which again, not happening. So you would think, moving from here, I want to throw my custom domain here and suddenly I will start bypassing them. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to grab this one and put it into my server container URL. So HTTP, my subdomain, Stape events, and I'm going to just save my changes as well. Now, if we go to the website, oh, yes, suddenly it started blocking it. Okay, wonderful. So you can see that the addition of a subdomain by itself has done nothing for me to bypass ad blockers. I'm downloading the web container from my server container, or rather, to be precise, I'm proxying it through the server container. However, I am still blocked. Nothing has changed. My container is, well, you can see here, is non-existent. So any conversions I would do in this scenario would not do me any good. Which is to say that your custom domain is by no means a thing that bypasses a blocker. The custom domain is only important for setting of the cookies. It is important so that when your server container responds to your hits from the web, let's disable this for a second again, and do here, all right, that when you get some responses, let's say from Google Analytics, let's find those. Are there any? Okay, maybe like this, maybe from data tag, doesn't matter. In your responses, you will have set cookie headers, right? I'm gonna generate a case a bit later to show you that, but the custom subdomain informs the first party context. When you get a response from your subdomain with a set cookie header, this is what makes any browser treat it as a first party cookie. So again, the takeaway here is that custom subdomain is a required thing. You should do it, but on its own, it does nothing for ad blocking, as we already have shown here, right? So again, my GTM.js here. Okay, with that out of the way, we can go even further, and we can add state container identifier, which will make it so that our custom loader will be almost fully protected from everything, because there will be no references to GTM in it. So the way I'm going to do it, I'm going to grab this container identifier from my account and put it into this box. By the way, this is not unique to WordPress. We have applications for other platforms which work in a similar fashion. You will have the same inputs, so you can you can do it on other platforms as well with our plugins. If you are on a if you run a website that's on a different platform, it's a custom website where there's no availability of our plugin, you can generate the custom loader in your admin panel here on Stape. You will just get a code which you can then inject directly into your HTML or whatever it is you're running there. So you are not all of the things that I'm showing are not limited to the app, of course, which is my point. So let's go ahead, save this with a custom with a container identifier from Stape, and see what we got here. Now my custom loader here is downloading the container from my custom subdomain without any references to GTM in the JS file and without any references to GTM ID in the query parameters, which pretty much makes it not recognizable to ad blockers, which we're going to test in a second. I'm going to enable this thing back and refresh. And you can see we're in a complete filtering mode and everything. However, our request still came through. Everything is peachy. We loaded our container in a net blocker environment. So success. Let's take it, let's up it a notch. I will go to my web container where I, for some reason, don't have any GE4. So let's quickly, piece that together. No, actually not this. Let's do Google tag. Let's do G something. And let's tell it that we are going to do a server container URL. And this will be our subdomain. What I want to show you is that it is not always enough to just have your GTM successfully load, because after successfully loading GTM, there's other stuff that can be blocked by ad blockers as well. So I'm going to give it the subdomain to where to send all of the events. And let's actually also make send page view true, just for the purposes of this demo, like this. Let's call it something, G4 config plus page view. Let's do it initialization. That's all right. We don't need additional parameters. This is good enough. Okay, save. I'm going to go ahead and publish this just so that we have a easier time debugging. Okay. With this published, we can go here and find some of those collect requests in our network. Maybe let's not filter it. Let's see. Right. Okay. You can already see that even the initial download of gtag right here was actually blocked. Right. So if I open the URL, this is my gtag that was supposed to be served to me because GTM has fired a GA4 tag. However, my ad blocker here, being the ad blocker, has blocked it. And I think this is simply because of the presence of this. Right. There's G and everything. So here's what we can do further to bypass even this. We can go to our Stape container, go to custom loader, and enable this thing called G4 ad block bypass. Let's hit generate, and let's save changes. This applies globally to the entire container. You can see this is being redeployed right now. So let's give it a second to do that. Meanwhile, I probably want a real analytics ID, but let's give it a shot anyway. All right, so container has now redeployed. We can expect the G4 bypass to be in, to be working and in action. So let's see. For those, vigilant, you can see that my Facebook pixel, for instance, was blocked by the ad blocker as well, which serves the point that it's not enough to just load the GTM successfully. You want your other tracking scripts to be protected as well. Facebook is not something we're covering today. The idea is if we let our GA4 go through, that will deliver information to our server. And on that server, you can fire your conversion API or anything like that. Right, these are Microsoft collects. This is not us. So let's see for subdomain. All right, okay. In front of you right now is a GE4 request, fully encoded, and without any patterns that ad blocker would recognize as /collect, as containing your GE4 ID, GE4 measurement ID, or anything. So what we've achieved here is we are not only successfully loading the container, which is this request, we are also successfully bypassing ad blockers for our G tag, which was successfully loaded, and it's now sending page views to our server container. In fact, I'm being stupid, so I should have done this. We could launch a preview on our server container and actually see those hits reaching us. So give it a sec. Of course. All right, so here we are with the preview. I'm going to refresh this, and we should see some hits here. And here's my page view from my GA4 with that dummy ID I used. And you can see it has successfully bypassed that blocking. I have uBlock with all of that complete filtering. But because this was encoded by the virtue of GA4 bypass, I can expect now that these events will be delivered to my container. And off of those, I can fire whatever, Facebook, Google Ads, anything, effectively meaning we have bypassed ad blocking. So I think that concludes more or less the ad blocking section, but I want to switch over to cookies and such, right? So ITP, which we already mentioned, is very complicated, to be honest. It's not as straightforward as you can imagine. So somewhere in the intermediary versions of it, I don't remember which one exactly, they also said that just setting cookie from your subdomain, such as we did in this instance, right? Uh, we have our GA4 requests. They are returning set cookie headers, and everything is firing. Just setting a cookie from the custom subdomain, from the subdomain matching your top level is not good enough in Safari any longer. Safari has internal mechanisms to check whether the setting, whether the subdomain that set the cookie is in the same network as the origin, right? As the page where we're trying to set the domain. By default, on Stape, on GCP, anywhere where you host your server container, that would not be the case, because normally your website is hosted, I don't know, somewhere. My WordPress, for instance, is in Hostinger, but my server container, so my subdomain, the DNS records are pointing to Stape. So definitely they are in different networks. Therefore, Safari limits such cookies, and on the surface, they look as if everything is peachy. They have their lifetime value, expiration date, and everything. They are set, they are first party cookie, but Safari will run an internal timer and at some point drop them. I believe that's 7 days, or even sometimes 1 day if it's a known cookie and if you are a heavy user of Facebook, if Safari knows that you're clicking those things a lot. So there are multiple ways to bypass this particular limitation and make sure your cookies are actually persistent and that they are true first-party cookies in Safari lingo. So the way to do it is same origin approach. That is when you send your events, such as we do here, not to a subdomain, but to your own domain, but to a path. Something like metrics, which we have in all of the examples, and it's what I'm going to use today. In order to set that up, you need either Cloudflare or an alternative, some sort of CDN, or you need access to your own web server, Nginx, Apache, whatever it is you have. If, again, maybe you have access to it, maybe your IT people have it, but it also can be done just on your web server. Because essentially what's going to happen is we're going to introduce another proxy into the mix, and all of the requests that we send to something like this, to metrics, will end up on our subdomain, on our server container. And since they will be proxied, the responses from those requests will also come from this path. So to a browser, that looks like there's no switch. It's the same domain, hence the same origin, that is setting the cookies. This is the best available approach to cookies right now, because factually what you achieve is there's no ITP whatsoever for you, because this is the truest first party context possible, and that way you have as persistent of a cookie as possible, as humanly possible. So we have this handy guide on Stape on how you do it on specifically Cloudflare and Nginx. I'm going to show you an example with Cloudflare today, and we're going to reference this guide a little bit just to let you know how to do that. But then again, if you don't have Cloudflare, if you don't have access to your web server, maybe you run some alternatives. If your situation doesn't allow you to use any of this, once I'm done with Cloudflare, I'll show you what you can do in that regard. What's the next best option that is available to you on State out of the box? But for now, let's deal with same origin. So I'm going to go to my Cloudflare account, as this suggests here, and I'm going to pick a domain and create a worker, just following the instruction. So I'm in my Cloudflare account. I'm in workers, workers and pages. So I would have to hit create. We can start with a dummy and just name it something. So let's call it webinar. You're not touching the code at this point. You're just like deploying it. I don't know why. This is Cloudflare UI. From here, you can go to edit code, which will open this screen and everything. But let me cheat a little bit. I will go to my existing worker and just show you all of the things there. And again, I'm going to reference the guide, so it will be absolutely easy for you guys to replicate. This is edit code. So if we follow, this is the wrong worker though. Yeah, yes, this is the wrong worker. I apologize. My existing worker would be this, events FP, right? Okay, so let's follow the instruction. And our instruction is here. So we created a worker, we given it a name, we went to edit code, which is where we are right now. And we want to pretty much copy this, which I have already done. You can see it here. It's better formatted because, well, I'm pedantic. But anyway, you can literally copy this thing here. The only thing you will need to change is obviously your paths that you choose to use. Again, metrics is an example, but I want to urge everyone to be creative and do something that is not screaming analytics, that is not screaming I'm collecting data. So any random gibberish would do. It doesn't really matter. It's just an endpoint. So we put it there. I have metrics here because I was lazy, and I have my custom state domain. In your case, this would be your custom domain, which you pointed to Stape, so something like this. From here on, you pretty much press the deploy button and you go back out of code. We then need to go to settings. And I promised I'm going to reference the manual, so let's reference the manual. We're going to go to settings, as it says here, item D, and go to domain and route to create a new route. So this is here. Oh, sorry. This is here. I'm in the settings, and this is how you would create a route. I'm choosing the zone. In my case, there's multiple domains, so I'm only applying this to Stape events. Stape events is where my dummy store is running. I'm giving it a route. In my case, again, it's woo.state.events, simply because my shop is running on woo state events. So most of the cases in the wild, you would probably have your root domain, something like just like this, right? But in my case, this is woo, so this is what I put there. Selected the zone that matches my domain. Nothing, no changes here. I'm just gonna say update route. And that's pretty much what we had before, so there's no update, but let it think. I don't know why it's thinking that much, but anyway. All right, let's go back to the manual, see what else we have to do. Next, your domain, click three dots, configure rules. So we are done with the worker. We just need to do some additional rules in our domain. So the way I'm to do it, again, let's follow the manual. We want to go account home. There's a list of domains that we have here. I'm going to find my events one. I'm going to click the three dots and say configure rules, which will, no, this is the wrong domain. I apologize. This one, events, right? Yep. Okay, cool. And here are the rules associated with the domain, Stape events. And I already have two. They are stupidly named. I'm going to take a point on that. So we need to create two. We need to create a configuration rule, and we need to create a request header transformation rule. So if we follow the manual, first we're going to do the configuration rule. So let's do it. I'm going to open mine, but again, you would hit create rule, select the configuration rule here, which will pretty much bring you to interface such as this. Give it a proper name. Don't ever do what I did here. Give it something that would be explanatory, right? So, like this is a config rule for same origin or anything. Dan is not really informative. I'm gonna stick to it because I'm used to it. But yeah, be smarter than me and assign proper naming. What you do next is we only filter. There's a custom filter. The custom filter is this. You want to select your path equals, and this is your pass. Again, in our case, metrics, what we've assigned for the test. In your case, should be something less recognizable, ideally. And SSL optional, full place at first. This will be the default setting, so you don't have to do much. You're pretty much you're only doing this line, and then you hit save. So rule number 1 is in place. Rule number 2, request header transform rules. So our manual says create a rule, request header transform rule, specify, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So if I open this up, again, you see it has the same names. It's not informative. Again, it has the custom. Oh, this is the wrong rule. Sorry. Let's see. Request header transform rules. Yes. Okay. All right. We have the custom filter expression, same one, so that we only want to apply this rule when request goes through the metrics, obviously. And what we're doing is we're adding this header x from CDN, and the value of it is statically cf-stape. The reason for this, and this is a very important step, never forget doing this. This header is what will let Stape understand that this request is proxied through Cloudflare, and we will grab the original IP of the user differently, right? So if you don't do this rule, if you skip it, everything will work, but in your reporting, you will have random IPs, and your geo in analytics or anywhere will go crazy because we will be reporting Cloudflare IPs rather than user IPs. So this header is critical for your reporting in the end. So never skip it. Again, it's in the manual, pretty straightforward. You go step by step. For those on Nginx, there's even a shorter guide, but again, not gonna touch that today. I'm gonna assume you have Cloudflare. Right. With this, we have all of our rules and everything. What have we achieved? Uh, just give me one quick second. All right. What we have achieved is we now can send requests to that pass. So I'm going to do just that. I'm going to go to my web container. I am going to find my server container URL. And instead of doing this as a subdomain, I'm going to do this. Stape events, which matches my actual domain, and I'm going to add that metrics to it. Let's also go ahead and fix that G4 I did. And in here, we're going to reference the same variable. So both G4 and our data tag are actually sending requests to that same origin. Let's quickly publish this. All right, and let's do a test. What we're supposed to see is requests to our metrics. Right. Okay. Few things to show you here. Right. My collect was blocked now, and I'm going to explain in a second why. My data tag, though, has successfully went to woo Stape events / metrics. And this would be here, but we probably need to relaunch preview. It's not evident really on the surface what have you won with this, because events are still going through. You still get your cookies set back, and on the surface, there's no difference. The difference would only show itself like under the hood in Safari, because a response rather, for such a request with a set cookie header like we have here in Safari environment, like I explained previously, when coming from the /metrics, would set a cookie in the truest of ways and the most correct way possible. Therefore, those cookies will be persistent. Now, real quick, why this was blocked and why this is no longer encoded. is because I skipped a part, right? So when you're doing same origin and at the same time you're doing bypass, you really need to specify your pass here so that Stape knows which kinds of requests to encode. So now that I've added metrics here, I still have my bypass on. I will save the changes. You can see that container is redeploying again. Once that is done, this request should no longer be visible and no longer be blocked. So let's give it a second and we'll double check on that. Okay, we are now running, so it should be all good. And let's refresh our page. And there you go. That's the same page view that was blocked a few minutes ago and was recognizable because collect and everything. Now this is encoded and going to your path, to your same origin. And again, the set cookie headers that it returns in this case are returning everything you are, are returning it's in the best possible way, like I said. So those cookies will stick on Safari. Okay, now that we have done that, if you don't have access to Cloudflare, you run a small website or otherwise you're in a enterprise where they don't let you mess with that, or it's impossible to reach IT, and so everything I just talked about is just inaccessible to you for any sort of internal reason. The next best thing you can do in light of same origin being impossible is our cookie keeper here. So real quick, cookie keeper is essentially an external cookie storage. By external, I mean on Stape. Within it, you can select which cookies you want to prolong. I'm just going to go ahead and do everything. We have the standard sets here for most popular platforms, but you can add custom cookies as well if you wanted to. And I need to generate it with a cookie keeper, but since we're enjoying the application in our WordPress, I will just go back there and I can click this checkbox, save the changes. From here on, you don't really need to do anything, especially if you're on one of the applications, because you just simply need to enable it. What's going to happen is, again, would only be relevant in Safari, but on every GTM load, we will restore the cookies that would be previously collected. So the way it works, I'm a normal user. I just go here. Let's close the network. I just walk around the website, and every time I unfocus a page or every time I switch a page, we send a request to your server container with the cookies that are currently here that match the list that we've configured, and they will be stored somewhere under the hood in your container. Next time this person loads a new page or anything, if the master cookie, we call it, if the thing that our plugin has set, we should be able to find it here. It's this BP, this is still in place, then it will be recognized, and based on this matching, the container load itself, so the initial download of the container, let's find it real quick. So this thing where you're just downloading the web container will also return a bunch of cookies in response, ultimately resetting them again. So imagine I'm on Safari. I landed from an ad. You set my click IDs and everything, but because you're not on the same origin, a week has passed and that cookie has died. Although on the surface it says, lifetime of 90 days or anything. When I'm such a user and I've cleaned my cookies, or Safari has cleaned those cookies or anything, and I return back, we will restore all of them, because the cookie that is used for matching is that true first party cookie. It's not set by GTM, it's not set by Stape, it's set by your own website, in this case WooCommerce, and in this case our application is taking care of that. So to sum that up, if you don't have access to same origin, if you don't have access to Cloudflare or your web server, which you absolutely should strive to have, because that's the best possible server-side tagging implementation approach, however you want to call it. Really, if you have the capacity to do it, you should always do it, because it's like a time capsule. You're like, you don't worry about cookies anymore, at least not in ITP context. If you can't do it, though, the next best thing, like I said, is our cookie keeper, which is comparatively limited, but in absence of other options, this is the best one you can do. So yeah, Always try Cloudflare, same origin. If you can, just use our cookie keeper. And like I said, it's just enabled in the application with a click of a button. I want to stress out that Cookie Keeper only works in Safari. That's the only place where it's relevant. So if anyone is going to go ahead and test it in Chrome and send us angry tickets, make sure you're doing it on Safari, all right? Because it doesn't even surface in Chrome. There's a piece of code that checks your browser and knows what to do with that. All right. So there's the last thing, I guess, on the outline is some of the bot traffic. So let's go through that. It's actually much easier and less complex than everything we just went through. So let me close some of redundant things. Bot traffic. So like I said, there's a possibility that you are watering down your conversion pool with just some bot traffic, right? That's not ideal, of course. Like I said, it might not be the case for everyone. It can depend on the audiences, on the industry, on everything, on season of the year. But on Stape, what you can do, you can go to Power Apps. You can just enable bot detection right here. So I'm going to say use, turn it on, and save changes. Again, the container is redeploying because we're applying those. Let's give it a second. All right, up and running. What this means, and this is written here, is that every single request that hits your server container, we will add two headers to it. X device bot, true or false, and X device bot score likelihood from 1 to 100. So let's take a look. I'm going to launch the server preview. I'm going to give it a second to work. All right, of course. Okay. All right, now that it's up, we can just refresh here, which will send a few hits to our container. It should. Oh, okay. All right. I know. I know, I know, I know. Because we're sending everything to, oh, this is a good point. Lovely. Because we're sending everything to metrics, I am not catching anything in my preview on the subdomain, right? Because all of this goes to metrics. So what we should do instead, one sec, is we should change this. Of course, we can change it in the settings, but I'm going to be lazy. I'm just going to do it here. So I can do my woo Stape events and just add slash metrics to it. And this will be our proper debug session, which will be catching these. Boom, and here they are. Right, so we have two requests just for demo. They are not related. This is data tag, this is GE4, but every one of those in the headers, which are here, will have X device bot score 54, X device bot true. So I'm a bot somehow. Don't ask me why. Shouldn't be happening. Probably has to do with my dummy website and ton of shenanigans that we do there and test. But nevertheless, gives you the idea. Let's look at this one. True, a bit of a different score. So on this request, it considered me more likely to be a bot. This is funny. I love it. In any case, you can always access those headers, right? You have decent built-in variables, which can do that. So we're going to create a variable. We're going to pick request header, which is going to reference it by name. So I can do x device bot, right? Let's double check. Yeah, X device bot, true or false, right? I don't know if you need the score. You may if you're, enthusiastic, but so X device bot, and I can name it something like this: request header, X device bot. Yes, all right. Okay, so what this does, let's relaunch preview again. Actually, let me copy this real quick. And let's do it the proper way and add it here to our preview URLs. So this, we'll state event metrics. There should be no duplicate URLs. Well, they are not duplicate. Are you kidding me? Okay, let's drop that one. I don't know. Google is funny. All right. This means we can now launch preview as intended, like this. And again, let's refresh. And now in our variables, somewhere down here is our X device bot. I'm still a bot, so I mean, feel free to call me that, I guess. Now that you have a variable, you do a simple thing. You can create a trigger. Let's let's assume where you're gonna filter everything. Probably not gonna do that, but let's say all events, all of the everything. If my header contains or equals true, whatever you want to do would work the other way. I'm not going to send the thing. So I'm going to say exception bot traffic. And I'm going to go ahead and apply it to, I don't know, let's say, what do we have here? Let's apply it here to our Facebook. Do our Facebook page view and exception, bot traffic, save it. And like, what's going to happen next. This thing is going to say I'm a bot, so my Facebook page view will never fire, right? No tags fired. And if we look at the Facebook page view, it has not fired because there was a blocking trigger, which is my header equals true, so I am a bot. Right. A piece of advice here, you obviously don't want to go ahead and just apply it across the board to all of your tags and just rely on this to like work correctly. But I urge you to do some tests. For instance, you have your conversion tags like Google Ads. You can create parallel conversion actions and report to those only filtering the bot traffic. Give it a few days and compare your results. You can create a custom event in Facebook, like a sibling to whichever event is of interest, like let's say purchase, and send purchase definitely not bought with that exception. See what's happening and compare the results and see how much more was reported, how much less was reported, and what would that mean ultimately for your campaigns. So use this with some caution as any tool, but definitely can help you out filter out those bots and such. Which concludes, I think, the detect filter bot section. Yay, that was easy. Now, how to measure the real impact of your server-side setup? That is even easier. We have an analytics tab right here. It is empty in my container. So if you give me a second, I'm going to find another one to show you so that there's at least something on the charts. One quick sec. Let me open a different window. And somewhere here, there would be demo account access. Okay. Copy link address. All right. So Stape Analytics will only work for those using the custom loader. So unless you did the shenanigans we discussed earlier, Stape Analytics will not work. I have this demo container here. We're on our demo account. And if you look into the analytics, again, the data here is a little bit funky, but the main thing it's going to show you is going to show you the amount of requests that were recovered from ad blockers. So when you're running our custom loader, we know when there is an ad blocker present. And if you successfully bypassed it, this is something that we will calculate and show you the amount of requests that, went through. Same goes for tracking prevention. So ITP environments, how many requests were handled in that context. So bypassing those limitations. And you will have a breakdown by event for G4 specifically. There's data client as well, and some other requests, which is stuff that's not categorized. Oh, and there's also statistics on requests from bots, which is what we discussed. So you can see real percentages, you can see real numbers. Again, check how they correlate to your tests, to your other sources of data, and draw conclusions from it. This is a very good tool to show your stakeholders, if anyone of you has to deal with it, the impact of server-side tracking, the uplifts that it brought to you, because you can only say, let's say 2.7%, but should be higher in the wild, is something you would never have tracked in the first place. If you apply that to your conversions, that seems like critical to me. Even if it's a couple of percent, they can inform your campaign optimization that much better if they actually go through. Whew. All right. So this has taken much longer than I expected. So I hope you guys didn't get bored or anything. With this, I'm not gonna stop sharing, but with this, I can take some Q&A. So let me open that chat and see what is up. Okay, Q&A. All right. So I'm not gonna touch the answered questions. I'm gonna go through the open ones. So Munir, should I use load.sgtm in Stape app server URL or just sgtm you should use load. That will just download your container a little bit quicker. What you don't want to do is you don't want to use SGTM in your subdomain. Again, you want to do something less recognizable, something that's not screaming I'm doing tracking to you, because a lot of those ad blockers and the stuff we discussed, the way they block things is just based on the pattern. They will look for GTM tracking, analytics, anything. So you really want to be creative with your subdomains. But to answer your question, yeah, you want to do load because that's CDN and the container will just be delivered quicker. If you block and co start adding state domains in their block list, would it also get blocked? Well, Tobias, if they add specifically your domain, like literally, of course you would just have to switch it. There's no bypassing that. However, they are already adding some of our patterns, and this is always a game of like cat and mouse, right? But I think we're still on top, and right now our custom loader is not being blocked by the latest additions to the databases of uBlock and Co, like you named them, and we're definitely going to keep on maintaining that trend and being ahead. Spoilers, there will be an update to custom loader. I'm not going to tell you when, which will even further protect you guys from, all of this pesky stuff. Google now automatically recommends server-side configuration with first-party cookies to use same origin domain in GTM. Do you recommend this configuration or is the worker configuration preferable? Why is that in the webinars where you show us how to extend cookie lifespan, you never show us the worker configuration to use the same origin domain? Like, okay, so I literally showed you the configuration of the worker and how you do that. To answer your question though, is it better? It's not. Okay, there are two different dimensions. Yes, you're going to have your same origin with it's called Google Gateway, right? Right now. It used to be called first party mode. Now it's Google Gateway. So yes, you're going to use the same origin, and yes, the cookies will be persistent, but there's no server-side tracking in it because your requests from your web container are just automatically routed there, and your Google Analytics and your GA4 are now suddenly, going to same origin and enjoy all of that. But you don't have your server container in that mix. You are not able to redact any data, and all of that same origin only applies to GA4 and Google Ads, which is why the answer, which one is better, depends on your situation. If you only care about GE4 and Google Ads, I say go ahead, try Google Gateway. It will do you a lot of good, and like you said, it's free, and Google is pushing it like crazy. If, however, you start adding other platforms and you want them to be as resistant and everything, well, the gateway will just not be enough, and you would have to resort to something like we discussed today. How can we do this in Shopify? Alina, you cannot do this in Shopify because Shopify has reserved IPs on Cloudflare. You literally cannot do same origin on Shopify, which leads me to, hey, do the cookie keeper as we discussed. This is a Shopify limitation, can't do anything with it. Gabrielle, previously A and AAA records were used by default when registering custom subdomain. Now default is CNAME. Is there a specific reason why? The specific reason why is the following. Back in the day, Safari ITP was dealing with what's called CNAME cloaking, but completely ignoring A records. This is no longer the case. So we just switched to CNAME because it's easier and you just need to do less records than you had to do before but ultimately you achieve the same result. So this is like a user-friendly sort of case. Technically, everything is the same under the hood. In fact, when you do that CNAME, we are actually adding A and AAA records under the hood automatically. Is an own CDN configuration preferable to one with a worker, since with own CDN there are no extra costs with Cloudflare for the traffic generated by the worker? Well, if your own CDN costs you nothing, then maybe, but own CDN approach means you're proxying all of your existing traffic plus all of your tracking traffic through the same network. So I don't know how that would be less expensive, but maybe I'm missing some context there, right? I imagine CDN brings you costs as well, maybe indirectly. The state bot traffic header is true like 80-90% of the time on client sites where I've tested. Would like to know what's the score threshold is or what goes into that determination. I suggest you reach out to us, offline. We can discuss that further. I would really love to see the examples of those websites you're talking about. There's an update to bot detection in the works, but still, 90% sounds like a lot. So if you can reach out to our support, just throw a ticket with maybe some examples, we would try to assist for sure. Does Stape have any benchmarks regarding what is usual for ad block versus tracking prevention recovery? What is usual? Well, again, I said on average 12% of ad block recovery is what we're seeing, but it's all audience, it's very audience dependent, very industry dependent. So if your user base uses ad blockers, the percentage will be that much higher. It's not about like successful recovery versus failed recovery. It's pretty much if they had an ad blocker, they will be in that percentage. So depends on your audiences. If you want to like an average, it's roughly 20, 12%, like I said, but can be much higher. Again, I mentioned we had a case where we had like almost 70. How is the bot likelihood calculated, and what is the threshold above which the visit is considered a bot? So 50 plus will be considered a bot. You can find that correlation in the scoring. Uh, Likelihood and everything. Like I said, if you guys have any issues with it, reach out. We're working on improving the bot detection as well, which is why I told you don't apply it across the board. Give it a test. But ad block 20%. Sorry, okay, Tobias, ad block 12%. What about tracking prevention? Well, how many users you have on Safari? It can go up to 30 roughly, I think, on average. But how many users you have on Safari? How many users you have on Brave? How many users you have on Firefox and such? Really hard to give you a number because one site will have a Chrome audience, another one will be like only iPhones. All right, Zane, what am I missing? I have a subdomain and it point towards the IP address range versus the same range. It points towards the IP address range versus the same. I'm not sure I get the question, Zane. If the subdomain is pointed to Stape, I will assume, then it definitely is not in the same network as your website, which then all of the limitations we discussed today, they will then apply. So again, the default overarching answer is you always want to go for same origin if you can. For the announced update to the custom loader, will that require the update of the GTM code to the website? If yes, can you send please a notification to say, oh, yes, ma'am, we're going to do that. That will require you to change the code because, well, we can't dynamically change the code on your website. That would be a bit of magic. So yes, you would have to regenerate the loader. Obviously, if you're using our applications and such, you will get that, under the hood automatically. Yeah, if you're injecting directly, you would have to replace the code. This question and answer the session also will be available to us. It will be in a way you're gonna get like an Excel spreadsheet with most of the questions and the answers to them. So yeah, you can refer back to things that were said here. Will you ever do a webinar to show server-side configuration for a multi-domain? Well, I'll take a note of that. We might just. I'm gonna check with the marketing, but sure. All right. I think that's it on the questions. We're almost out of time, but I'm happy to entertain a few more. Oh, all right. And there's more. Okay. Okay. Do same origin with Shopify is nothing to do with self-hosted domains. No, this is nothing to do because like you same origin with Shopify is nothing to do with self-hosted domains versus Shopify. Okay, so same origin with Shopify is nothing to do with self-hosted domains versus Shopify. Shopify hosted. Right, no, you can't do it on Shopify. Not gonna happen. That's the point. Your website, wherever you host the domain, your website, the pages will be on Shopify and will be in Shopify network, and the subdomains you point to, Stape or whatever, will never be in that same network. And you can't do it because, and you can't do same origin and everything because again, the Cloudflare will throw you an error and said this is not allowed. We have a shortened domain. Would it make sense to integrate Stape or just track referral traffic? I don't know. There's like too many answers to that. It depends on your use case. If you can share it with us, probably not in this medium, and we can, try and give you some advice on what's the best approach. I'd say most of the time it makes sense to integrate Stape or server-side tagging in principle. So yeah, but again, I don't know your context. Does Stape have support representatives that help with implementation of creating the GTM container? If you need support with implementation per se, so stuff that is happening inside your container, the normal support will try to help you, but they might not have the know-how for like deeper questions. So we have a separate subscription tier called Stape Care, where you can enjoy like a dedicated representative who will be hand-holding you across the entire journey and ongoing support you with, what's happening inside the tags. So that's available as an additional service. Thank you. Well, thank you, sir. Uh, all right. Uh, okay, let's give it a couple more minutes. If there's any open questions, just dump them into chat. If not, we'll be wrapping this up. And yeah, I'm gonna treat that as a no. And will this improve event score? What this? Okay, so event score, you probably mean match score and you probably mean Facebook. So the things that Meta, okay, of course, right. So what informs the event match quality on Meta is the amount of user data you're sending and the amount of Facebook click IDs you're sending. So indirectly, this will all help for sure because you will be sending more Facebook click IDs than you would otherwise. Well, but in this, like in the direct answer to your question, that's the only aspect of how it was going to improve it. The rest of it is user data, which you either send or not, which is dependent on you. But then again, we have that trial, remember? So if you do this, you're going to send more signal because you will be bypassing ad blockers. You're going to be extending cookie lifetimes. So within the signal you're sending, there will be cookies where otherwise they might have not been there. So yes, overall, it has an effect on your match score, but indirectly. Will this, yes, Derek, there will be a recording. You're going to have a follow up probably early next week with a Q&A kind of a spreadsheet and link to the recording and some supporting material on top. So, yay. All right. I think, okay, Tobias, maybe this is documented somewhere already, but how does the pricing work? Is it really 17 a month or is there usage pricing as well? It starts from 17 a month, and 17 a month is if you pay a yearly subscription. It's 12, it's 20 per month if you pay monthly. It depends on the usage, it depends on your traffic. So our subscriptions are request based. So however many requests you're sending to the server container, and the 70 bucks per month, this is the lowest plan, which gives you 500,000 uh, in a month, right? And by requests, I don't mean users. I mean every single event, every single script proxy that you're doing. Like, we discussed the custom loader. When you're downloading with the custom loader, that eats up a single request from your subscription as well, because our servers are serving that and like giving you the capacity. What I'm missing if I have a subdomain and it points towards the same IP address, you're not missing anything. If that's indeed the case, you are good. You don't need same origin. You don't need any of these shenanigans. The responses from your subdomain will then be true first party cookie and everything. If you are in the same IP range, then yeah, you're all good. Okay, right. At some point, I have to probably complete this, so we'll be closing the Q&A. I'm not looking at the answers anymore. Thanks everyone for the attention and being here. Like I said, you're gonna have a recording and all of the follow-up. And yeah, stay tuned. We have these every month, so I'm gonna see you all in August. Right? Best of luck. Cheers.